might as well start roughly on time. Jen should hopefully be here, but as we know, she travels from West Island, so she might have just got caught up a bit in the rain. So, Nikki and Heath are joining us tonight. So, hello. So I'm Prue, who you've been in contact with. And pretty much we're moving on to labour tonight. So each night you come, I try to have this up and ready. And I also put a wee bit up onto the Facebook group beforehand, just sort of so you know what's coming out. And just housekeeping to you guys, toilets there, kitchens that way, help yourself at any time. Okay, so just pop up and take a roll. So how's everyone's week been? Standard part?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. Right. Well, we might as well move straight into it. So, I've come straight from work, so I'm just going to do this. Sorry. Fall over. So, we're going to talk about possible or probable signs that you're in labour. So, some of our multi-times here will probably have a wee bit more of an insight. I'll just give you guys one of these each. If you're not comfortable reading them out, just let me know. We'll just move them on. And then I'll put another one. Okay, so I'll start off with Jen's one. So Anna was lying on the couch relaxing and reading a book. As she moved position, she felt a pop sensation. Anna stood up to see what this was and felt a trickle of fluid down her legs. Anna went to the toilet and realised that the fluid wasn't urine, but it was clear and didn't smell. Is this a probable sign of labour or a possible? So probable, you might be going into labour, you might just be in the early stages of things beginning to head towards labour. And sorry, I've done that one the wrong way. So, probable, more than likely you are in labour. So, labour is beginning to happen, you're beginning to go into it. Possible is you might possibly be heading into labour. So, with that scenario there, so she's felt a pop, she's had fluid, hasn't wet her pants. Do we think she's probably in labour or possibly might be going into labour?
Was it colour?
Possibly.
No,
Possibly.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Huh?
The water's breaking. So that from our warning signs last week.
Yeah, wasn't it
Well,
colour last
awesome.
week? Yeah.
So it was clear, and
Yeah.
so she said it's clear. There's no signs of anything else. So if it was the green or the bright yellow or any of the strange colourings or had a real strong smell that was bloody, she would definitely ring midwife then. But if the water's broken, she's possibly going into labour. You do want to contact your midwife if your water's break and labour doesn't begin within 24 hours. So most midwives will actually want you to just ring and say, hey look, the waters are broken, everything's fine, I'm not in labour yet, just giving you a heads up. And so they'll sort of just keep track of that time, and that's just because there is small risk of infection, etc. if the water's broken for too long. Okay, so are you guys happy to go next?
Do you need to go to the toilet?
We had pepper malfunction last week and a shear this time. You alright?
But it hasn't got the pin in it.
That would be me, sorry. I really didn't. I'm just glad it was you, not someone.
Chris just went into the...
That's all right.
Yeah, alright.
I can't find it all.
I was grabbing up the sheet. Probably there. Yes, cool. Excuse me for a minute.
Sorry,
That's fine. Get it on film.
keeping on your toes. No, no.
Oh, what's that?
Well, now we'll probably all get to laugh as you watch me roll down that stairs. I'll keep my fingers crossed.
That will be on camera too.
Wonderful. Sorry, Nicky.
That's alright. Julie's gone to the toilet and found a large amount of jelly-like substance on the toilet paper. This has a couple of pink streaks in it, but doesn't smell. She feels fine and has no discomfort.
So, what do we think? Probably going into labour, might possibly be.
Possibly.
Anyone know what it was?
Well,
So. So, mucus plug is what is actually covering the cervix, sits up inside the cervix, up until the time heading towards labour, for some of us it can come away quite some time before labour begins, and then for others it's the very first sign of labour happening, and that just actually protects the womb environment. So it might have a couple of pink stains in it, a couple of drops of blood. It shouldn't be bloody though, and that's just because the cervix is beginning to open up, so it may burst a couple of capillaries, etc. while it does that.
Daniel has noticed Mary has virtually taken the house apart. She's mopped and cleaned everywhere. Mary has also made sure that she has everything ready for the baby and seems to have a sense of urgency about being ready. Daniel has also noticed she doesn't want to go far from home and has decided not to go to Tākaka for a friend's barbecue this weekend. Is this a probable or possible sign of labour?
What do you think?
Well, for us it was probable.
You were in labour, were you?
Yeah. And with Caitlin, we both made we cleaned the house.
Wow, great.
While I was doing it, I went into labour.
I think mine was because I was told to
Yep. So, generally, I would say, yeah, nesting, well done. I was going to say, so generally nesting is over in this part. But heading towards labour, or just heading towards that very end of pregnancy, a lot of women do not want to go far from home. It's that whole just sort of want to keep your environment safe and keep your, where you want to be. And so often that can be a sign that you're heading towards doing things, but for most of us it's not a definite sign. But I know that I have stood on benches cleaning the top of the kitchen ceiling, and my son was born the next day. And it was just simply, it had to be done then and there. So I can understand where you're coming from. Hello, come on in. No worries at all. I'm just going over probable possible signs of labour.
Oh.
Jasmine has a low backache that seems to come and go. There also is, this also is accompanied by some lower tummy and nipple-like cramps. Again, these seem to come and go. Jasmine is able to continue activities as per normal, but is having to pause when she gets these aches. Is this probably a sign of labour or possible?
What do you think she might be experiencing? No.
Contractions or well, it wouldn't be Braxton Hicks if it was painful and she's having to stop. Yeah.
So the fact she's able to carry on as per normal just sort of tells us that pretty early. A lot of women in those very early contractions will feel them across your back rather than round through the front. And they are the menstrual-like and that sort of sensation. So if you've ever had menstrual cramps, similar feeling to that, Braxton Hicks generally aren't painful. They can be a bit uncomfortable and there is a real strong feeling of tightening, but contractions feel quite different than Braxton Hicks. So she is probably in labour. And last but not least,
Nicole has to go to the toilet to do a bowel motion several times over the last day. She feels fine and has no sign that it is a virus or anything of concern. Her body just seems to be doing a clear out.
so possibly in labour, probably in labour. Possibly, yeah. So just the girl Clara. It is really quite common that our bodies will do this. So many years ago, you would go to the hospital in labour and they'll give you an enema because they wanted to make sure everything was cleared out. They've since noticed that Mother Nature didn't get the blueprint wrong, and she does this all by herself. So it is, and often that cramping of the bowel too can help set off labour as well. So it just sort of goes along like that. So as long as you're not vomiting, it's not something that's obviously bug or virus, noro or something. Just that clearing out is perfectly normal. So we don't have any definite signs of labour on here, because in those early stages there is nothing that's 100% definite until labour really is in full swing, and then you definitely in labour things are definitely going on. And I had that one person say to me before, until the baby's saying hello, you don't know 100%, but you definitely are aware when you begin contractions. You just will know that there is a contraction versus breaks and heartbeats. So does anyone have any questions on any of those? And cloth nappies, many uses. Let's get those back up. Thank you. Natural stages of labour. So when we talk about undisturbed birth or ecstatic birth, and that is where we're able to let our bodies and nature take its course. So we're not interfering in what nature sets in place to trigger labour, to trigger birth, and to trigger all the hormones that support each other throughout that. So the main hormone that we talk about during labour and childbirth is oxytocin. So oxytocin is released in waves from the hypothalamus, so receptors in that uterus, so heads on down your body to your uterus, receptors in the uterus respond and contract. By contracting, it's putting pressure down onto your cervix, and that activates nerves there, which sends a signal back up to your brain to make more oxytocin. So that circuit just carries on the way so it's self-fulfilling the way it does it. So by releasing that oxytocin, your uterus contracts. By contracting, pressure is put onto the cervix from the baby. Because you're doing that, it sends a message to make more oxytocin. Now oxytocin is the hormone of love, so it's the one that makes us go, when we have the baby, it's the one that helps us with breastfeeding. It's also the one responsible for orgasm and for when we feel good. So it's a great little hormone to get running around in your body. Got some more information here about other hormones that come into play, and so that's how they are working throughout your body and how they all support each other in labour. I'll pop this up for you guys to read in depth on the Facebook group, so it's a wee bit wordy for me to sit here and go on about, but so, like I said, when we're talking about ecstatic birth or natural birth, so we're not disturbing natural birth, it's that there's those hormones that are going on by themselves. So, mainly the prostaglandins, which unlocks up in the cervix, help the cervix, the face, and open. There's oxytocin that we spoke about, so that is what's actually causing the uterus to contract. And it's also what puts pressure onto the cervix, and it's all those feel good of love and breastfeeding, etc. comes from that one. Endorphins and adrenaline and prolactin. So I'm going to say this quickly, estrogen and progesterone. So they're your sex steroids that are going on. So they activate and inhibit and reorganise all your hormone system. and they play a critical role in maintaining your pregnancy. So your levels of estrogen and progesterone are what actually keeps you pregnant. And estrogen is what actually wires up your uterus to respond to this oxytocin when it's released. So adrenaline is pretty much what you're going to experience, when you're fearful, when you're cold. So we actually don't want much adrenaline in labour. So that's where we need to be calm in our birth space. We want to be safe and feel loved. And what is actually going to make that birth space a safe and calm place for you, because we don't want adrenaline surging around. So it does have a small place, which is just at the point of birth, which is the fetal ejection reflex, and that's where you'll get a sudden surge of adrenaline, and more than quite often becomes suddenly quite alert and quite active just at that pushing stage, and that's actually not important. Prolactin is that mothering and nesting hormone that shoots off, so some of us might have this stronger than others. But that's actually what tells our breasts to start beginning to produce milk. So it's there in lower doses prior to birth, and at birth it comes in after a couple of days. It gets a lot stronger. And so the beta endorphins, this is what we do want going on in our body. So that is nature's own painkiller. So if all these other hormones are left to work and do their thing, and we're keeping our adrenaline low, our body produces beta endorphins. And so it's similar to if you've ever, I don't know if any of you guys are marathon runners or anything else, but that real high you get when you've done a big long run, or sports people often talk about the absolute, and that's beta endorphins, and it just, your body releases its own painkillers. I have seen one analogy that beta endorphins are about 50 times stronger than heroin, as far as kids. So it's amazing that our body just produces that all by itself in response to what's going on. So it's pretty much it can help you transcend pain. So rather than being in it, it helps you transcend it and above it. So the beta endorphins are really, really important, and that's where we're keeping that birth space nice and safe. So like I said, it's in depth. Is one that isn't that much fun to sit and listen to, I realise, right? So it's there if you're interested to have a look into it further, but it's really, really interesting, and if you can keep that in the back of your mind, why it's so important to keep that birth space calm, safe, and loving anymore. So there's huge parallels between the hormones in childbirth and labour and the hormones in making love, and so you wouldn't do one probably with the door wide open, lights on, and 3 or 4 strangers standing in the room with you, and so you need to think about the other. Would you do it in the other one? So, talking about the birth environment, so wherever your birth environment is, so that could be home birthing, yeah? And is everyone else planning up at the hospital? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So it's quite often easier to create this at home because you are in your space, and you can, but the way to keep that there is to stay home until you do feel you need, for whatever reason, to transfer. There's pretty much those 5 elements that allow you to be relaxed in your birth space. So your body can then release all the hormones that you need for labour to continue progressing, so that's the oxytocin, and the hormones that will help you in labour, so those endorphins. If you feel safe and undisturbed, you can focus on giving birth to your baby. So what we're looking for is warmth. We're looking for you to feel safe, whatever that is. So at the hospital it may be drawing curtains, shutting the door. At home, where it makes you feel safe. Private. often that is something we forget, that we do want to be private to do these things. Again, pull your curtains, shut doors, and your midwife will help facilitate that to the hospital. Most of us would like it to be quiet. Some of us don't. Some of us want music on in the background, whatever music choice that is of ours. Or if you're used to other kids running around, you're quite used to a certain level of noise most of the time. So absolute quiet may not be something that suits you. And dimly lit. So this is also for baby. Baby's been in a nice, music, little perfect environment for that 9 months. It must be quite daunting to come out and have suddenly bright lights in your face. So the dim lit actually helps the baby in that transfer from womb to earth. And support people. It is your job to protect that environment for birthing women. So they are focused on birthing. That is what they're doing. So it's your job to discuss this beforehand, but also at any time she says, look, just get all these people out here. It's your job. Okay? You're the guardian of that birth space.
Get a badge made.
I'm a sheriff of birth count. So any questions about that? So it's just sort of touching into it a little bit. So I'm happy to go into any of it further if anyone wants. Okay, so I will have it up for you guys to read and always post. Oh, and on the subject of questions, she didn't correct me about the hypothetical about the cow. You said about baby in the handbag. If baby was born in the bed that was technically we were. Neither of us could imagine a situation where they would leave the baby in the membranes for that amount of time, but so long as that life support was still in place, then
She's all goes still.
baby's still fine. Yep. And hummus, I can't find out the reason for hummus other than it being the chilled. No one can tell me what it is in the hummus that they recommend pregnant women don't eat. There were just 2 questions asked last week, was why can't we eat hummus? And that has actually changed since I had my babies, I have to be honest. Hummus wasn't on that list. But no one can give me the specific reason why hummus is banned. So I did just have to assume it was listeria risk, which is with most cold processed foods. So, but no one can say if it's the tahini or what in particular. So we're going to do a little thing. Do the timeline. So this is a random thingy, I promise. So this is to simulate your uterus and your cervix. So right now, baby's up in there, tucked up, nice and safe and sound. Your cervix is quite long and it's closed.
Oh, you're right.
Okay, so it may be sitting a little bit open, but it has got that mucus plug in there more than likely. So, and it can be sort of up to the second knuckle on your little finger, roughly in there. So it's actually quite long. We sort of think of it as quite a flat or a small part of your womb, but it's actually quite long, and so it's closed at the moment. So as labour begins, what your body does first, for those of us on more than one baby, your body actually learns to do this all at once. So that's why often your first stage is shorter, because your body does it all at once. But first time, your body is going to efface the cervix first. So effacing is where it thins it out, so it takes it from a long structure into a short structure. So it pulls it up into the uterus, up into the womb muscle. So it becomes all thin. Kind of just worked in my head as a demonstration, but I'm not sure if it's really working right now. And so it becomes thin and it's pulled up into the uterus, so it's not separate and down below baby, it's sort of sitting up, and baby's head is pushing down on that, unless you reach and you've got a bum pushing down on it. But generally, and that is sending off what we said about the oxytocin, those 3, so the contracting from the top, cervix is getting pulled up, and that pressure is telling that oxytocin to keep going. So once it's spent its time thinning it out, it then begins to start dilating. So most of us sort of go from 1 to 2 centimetres before we have any idea we're in labour. So our body's sort of starting to do lots of things. So it slowly does its thing, and eventually we get to about 10 centimetres. There is no real timeline for that. Every single one of us will have our own birth journey, whichever way we go, and there's no definite set time on how long it will take. So that's where we're using that informed consent we went over, and we're just talking to the your midwife, etc. wants to talk to you about how long things are taking. That's where you talk to her about that, just say whether you're comfortable or not. So once it's up at 10, so your cervix is really thin, pulled up and opened out, I'd love to say baby just sound like that. And obviously its arms won't get caught in the knitted stitches as it comes out. Okay, so very beginning, long structure, close time, thins out, comes up until it's sort of in one muscle, and then it's going to open from that closed position all the way to 10, and then it's going to facilitate baby being able to move down and out through the birth canal. So, okay. So we're going to do something that's just pretty much a stages of labour timeline. So we can pop this down on the floor, and I'll pop a few things out on it. Now I'll put it in roughly a question mark shape because, as we said, none of us sort of know how long our journey is going to be. It's not going to sit back for me, is it? So what I've popped down here is first stage latent. So that's, labour is roughly split up into 3 stages. So you have your first stage, so that's what we just talked about, that's our cervix thinning, that's our cervix opening. Then we get to transition is included in the first stage. Then we get to the second stage, which is where you actually want to push, you want to bear down and baby is born. And then the third stage is the placenta. In here, I've got lots of different parts of labour. So some of them are self-help, some of them are what support people could be doing. Some of it is an explanation of what's going on at that time. So if you guys want to read what you've got and then just pop it down, where about you think along that road will go? Whereabouts? So just have we read them, yep, and then just pop them down wherever you think they might go.
Interesting.
So some of them might go in lots of different places. This is just about where you think they might belong. What do we think?
I think I did mine in the wrong direction, like to everyone else, but that's fine. No, no, I didn't.
So there's quite a few there. I mean, like we discussed last week about how the water's breaking. Your waters may not break right up until the baby is born, and the midwife will break them. So, or for some people, it could be right down here. It could be the very first sign that they're in labour, or they could go at any point in the middle there. So staying upright and staying moving around right up to the stage that baby's being born is a definite. Could be anywhere along that line. So this, oops. This just sort of explains in a little bit more detail. If it's going to stay out for me. Foot routine was a good idea, but it won't not be. So, first stage of labour is where the cervix is beginning to thin and it's opening from 0 to 4 centimetres. So, it's that very, very early stage. If it hasn't happened already, your show might come away. That might be your first sign that you're in that early stage. Your waters may break. I prefer to call contractions surges. I just sort of find that more of a positive term thing that it's our body surging to move baby. So when I do refer to surges, that is what I'm talking about. So your surges are mild, they're normally going to be 10 to 15 minutes apart, or you might only have 2 in an hour. So again, what I'm saying here is very averages, but you might be at one end or the other. So don't take it as gospel if yours don't even in 10 to 15 minutes. It's going to take more. So mum is completely able to continue moving about in between surges. Important to stay hydrated, so keep drinking throughout labour. And you can eat if you want to as well. Just in case you are sick, I wouldn't suggest going and having a 4-course meal, but continuing on with some yogurt and some banana and crackers or some toast, etc. is absolutely fine. Rest in between those surges, especially if it's night time. Try and carry on sleeping because you don't know how long your journey is going to be. So try and get as much rest as you can in those early moments. More than likely, mum's still going to be very, very excited. This is it. We're off. We're going. Yay! Baby's coming. Talkative, have spurts of energy. Still joking, happy. Everything's great. So contact your support person that labour started. So if it's not your partner, etc., if you need to ring somebody else to come to labour with you, come and support you through the labour, give them a ring and let them know it started. If your waters are broken, let your midwife know. Rest between your surges, so warm showers can be quite comforting as well. And also support people, remind them to keep those fluids up, but also to empty their bladder as well. So a contracting uterus doesn't like full bladders at all. So it's really important to remember to keep emptying your bladder, and quite often you will forget. And so that's why I support people. It's just a good idea to just, how about we just tinker down this space. Just leave them down towards the toilet if you need to, and just sort of keep an eye on that. So sort of drawing a wave of what it looks like. So in your first stage, you're sort of going to have a nice long gap, short rise to a peak, back down, and then another big gap, short rise to a peak, down, and carry on. So surges are measured from the beginning of that first one to the beginning of the next one. That's the time in which you're measuring. And then how long from you first feeling it to it dying completely away is how long the contraction lasts. So it may be 15 minutes from here to here, and the time that you first felt the contraction come on and you felt it die away might be about 20 seconds. Okay. There is an app, believe it or not, if you're one of these technology people. There is a little app for timing labour.
Yeah.
You had to.
No, I've already got it.
I was
Yeah.
okay. So in saying that, don't look at the clock too much either. Just support people mainly. And as contractions progress, you'll be able to tell when a contraction's coming on, and you'll be able to watch your partner and sort of say, hey, has it gone away now? And then so just every so often do that, rather than it doesn't have to be the whole entire labour documented contractions. So just once in a while, just keep an eye on. So the first stage of So you've moved on from that latent stage, which is 0 to 4, and then we're sort of going into the active stage. So your cervix is continuing to efface and open, so it's going from 4 to 8 centimetres, roughly. Your waters may break if they're still intact. Surges are going to become more frequently, so they're going to be probably around 5 minutes apart and lasting from about 60 to 90 seconds. And they don't go away with the change of position, so you sort of know that they're moving up a wee bit. As in those early stages, sometimes if you're just sort of sitting still, they can feel a bit more intense, but if you got up and wiggled or did some pelvic rocking, they sort of calm down. With the active ones, it will continue. So you're still going to want to pelvic rock through it, you want to move with it, but it won't just disappear with the change of position. Mother's probably going to become a wee bit more serious, less talkative, sort of go into herself a lot more during the contraction. So research is going to want to just be able to focus on that breathing, focus on your body, focus on what's happening. Try and keep moving and changing positions, especially encouraging gravity. We're going to go into some pelvic positions later on tonight, but things that are going to help, gravity is going to help speed up dilation, so things like walking around, squatting, standing, rocking are all really helpful. Still try and relax completely in between those here. So to support people, you're still going to help them with breathing exercises. You're going to support whoever way that they want, so they may want you not to touch them, or they may want massage, or just a cold cloth, drinks, and continue with that incubator. So your surge is going to change slightly. As we said, that we're going to go from, so probably about 5 minutes, slightly higher peak, and slightly longer across. So about 5 minutes, slightly higher peak, off, across. So you're sort of getting about 1 to 1.5 minutes of length, and they're sort of lasting about 5 minutes. Not lasting 5 minutes, sorry, about 5 minutes apart. So what we call that there is a 5-1-1. So most of your LMCs are going to want you to contact them when you hit that stage. So the 5-1-1 is your surges are approximately 5 minutes apart. They're lasting about 1 minute, and they've been that way for about an hour. So normally that's a sign that your labour is really well progressed, you're heading towards the end zone, and so they're going to want you to transfer it to hospital if that's where you're going, or often that's when your LMC will show up at your house. If she hasn't come, most of them come earlier than that, and that's also when she's likely to call the secondary midwife to be at the house with you. So you've been going along, you've got up to about 8 centimetres. Your cervix is, so in transition, so this is the shorter stage of labour, but it can be the most intense stage of labour. Okay? So this is your body's last little hoo-ha, getting you to that 10 centimetres, and it is doing a lot of work in this last little bit. So you're opening up from that 8 to 10, so your body is getting ready, so that's why it's called transition, because you're transitioning from just your usual working, getting that cervix to open and allow baby to come through, so you're going to transition to actually pushing baby out. Contractions are going to get more frequent. They're going to be about 2 to 3 minutes apart, and they're going to be lasting anywhere from 1.5 to 2 minutes each one. So like I said, it's the shortest stage though, so sort of a wee bit of a sharp curve just before we head towards birth, that last little bit. More than likely, mum's going to get a wee bit irritable at this time, or can show some signs of distress, and often mum's going to say, I can't do this, I don't want to do this. Know that that is just your body's doing that last little oomph, I'm just about there. So if you feel like that, take it as such a positive and turn it around and just think in your mind, actually that means I'm just about there, we're just about done. So sometimes mum can feel a wee bit shaky, disorientated, and it is just your body is doing so much of those beta endorphins coming down, so you have just been through a lot of work, and it is your body just all reacting to that. You may feel some pressure in your back passage, and that is just baby beginning to move down as well. I've written here, it's also a classical stage where mum might become loud and verbal, which does happen sometimes. Or some of us are very, very quiet, and so mum just may need to just totally focus on what she's doing. So support people, that's just where you need to be right there the whole time and just working with them however they want you to work with them. Something that worked in way back here may not work in transition, so if she says stop, quit it, just do it. Don't take anything personally at all. So once you've dilated to that 10 centimetres, you're going to switch from sort of just being a passive participant while your uterus is doing all this work to open your cervix up, to being an active participant. So you're going to be able to actively participate in the birth of your baby soon. So the contraction wave, to give you sort of a visual for that stage, is, as you can see, they're coming closer and closer together, and rises to a peak, and it sort of lasts that longer amount of time before it drops back down. But again, you're still, with any of these stages, and that's something I just want you to remember in your head really, really clearly, is you get that break. It's not the contraction the whole time. When you don't have a contraction, it's completely gone. Okay, you might be a wee bit uncomfortable just from how you're sitting or moving, but it's not pain the whole time at all. You get a complete break in between each contraction, and that's the same in every single stage. Your contraction's going to come on, it's going to peak, but you'll get to know that peak, and you also get to know it's coming back down. And then when it comes back down, you're stopped, you're okay. The second stage is the birth of your baby. So the cervix is fully open, the baby's going to move down through the cervix, through the vagina, and be born. Your waters may break if they're still intact here. Your surges are going to change in sensation. So it's normally accompanied, most women, some women don't get it, but most women get a very uncontrollable urge to bear down. And it is a very different sensation than the contractions previously. So they still come on, and you have a contraction and it slows down in a way, but it's a different sensation, and it's accompanied with that wish to push. there's a larger gap between the surges too, so they come on and last a little bit longer, but you also get quite a big break in between them. And again, Mother Nature got it right, so that's giving baby a chance to uptake its oxygen, because baby's getting a lot of pressure as he's being pushed down. So it's giving the cord and everything else a chance to come back up and be ready to go. Mum might need lots of encouragement here, sips of water, cold cloth on the head. You may want to try a few different positions to find out what works for you. If you're water birthing, it's quite wonderful because it's really easy to change your position in the water because you are weightless. Again, we are looking for gravity positive positions though. So laying on your back just goes completely against any sort of gravity assisting you. So as you go on, support mum, so lots of encouragement, perhaps you can see baby, you did really well with that one, and it's breathing throughout all those contractions. And then the final wee bit is you're going to birth the placenta. So you've had baby, you're looking, you're going, oh wow, I've got my baby, it's wonderful. Normally you're having skin to skin with baby, and baby might have gone towards the breast, and then your surgeries sort of start up again. Now they're nowhere near what they were before, so often your midwife is going to get you to stand up or to do some sort of gravity to just encourage the placenta to come away. But your placenta will eventually be born anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. So those who, as I said, they're milder, and it can feel like a head for a couple of seconds, and then it's all over. So, how did you find placenta?
More annoying
Yep.
than the pain. Like the relief of having the baby, and when you got the baby, it's just more annoying.
Yeah, you're so focused on baby.
It's nothing compared to, it's just something you have to do.
How did you?
I didn't have a break, it just happened.
Yep.
Like straight away, like didn't even know.
Yep.
Yeah, she didn't have time to give me the injection or anything, so yeah, just happened. Yeah.
Have you anyone? No, it's your first. I meant to ask you about. I saw your profile picture with a kid.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking, oh, I'm sure looking at two first, but yeah. So, how do you feel about what we've just gone over? So it's a lot of information at once, I do realise, but so first stage, cervix, uterus doing all the work. Second stage, you doing the work, birthing the baby, and third stage of the placenta being born. Anyone got any questions? The placenta. So we'll just quick go over the placenta, and then you guys can go and have a wiggle and a jiggle.
Is there somewhere I can lie down for a minute?
Absolutely.
The floor will be fine. Yeah, I just I felt weird the last couple of days, and I think I just had a blood sugar dip or something. So I just feel
Look at Vicky's or something.
lightheaded. I had tea just before, so I don't know.
If you've got a nice day in there.
I do, yeah.
Do you want to run in?
I could do. No, I just feel a bit faint.
That's all right. Excuse me, please. Hold for a second.